Hi, my name is Damon Matthews. So here's my question. Will climate change mean the end of humanity? So I'll start by rephrasing this in a slightly more scientific and cagey manner. So how about, could climate change mean the end of humanity? Or even better, what is the likelihood that climate change could mean the end of humanity? So there's a question for you, and here's my definitive answer, informed by all of the climate science expertise I can lay claim to. It depends. So as a climate scientist, I regularly come across relatively dry scientific papers written about potentially disastrous climate changes occurring at some point in this imprecisely defined point in the semi-distant future. And the IPCC has warned repeatedly that global temperatures could reach 5 degrees by the end of the century if we failed to curtail our greenhouse gas emissions. And this would probably commit the world to many meters of sea level rise, cause dramatic increases in severe weather events, potentially widespread loss of agricultural productivity, and could even cause temperatures in some parts of the world that exceed the limits of our physiological heat tolerance. One climate model even predicted that the Amazon forest could collapse later this century as a result of there not being enough rain to sustain the ecosystem that it depends on. Any of these things could be catastrophic for humanity and might even threaten our collective survival. But they also occur in a world in which we fail utterly to confront and deal with the causes of climate change. So the key to this question is actually this: how will humanity respond to the threat posed by global warming? As a scientific community, I would say we're actually pretty good at modeling the climate system and the many dynamics and feedbacks that occur amongst its components. We know very well that water vapor and snow are both powerful positive feedback mechanisms that will amplify the effects of our carbon dioxide emissions. We understand also how a warming climate will change the world around us, and we can point to recent events like the increasingly severe wildfire seasons in California and Australia, or to the occurrence of 200-year floods in 3 years here in Montreal, and we can identify the signature in these events of the 1 degree or so of temperature increase that we've caused over the past century. So overall, we can make pretty decent predictions of how the climate system will respond to our greenhouse gas emissions. But we're absolutely useless, I would say, at predicting how humanity will respond to the climate changes themselves. And this is, I think, where the biggest danger lies, not in the far-off possibility of catastrophic climate events or runaway sea level rise, but at the intersection of incremental climate changes and the dynamics of human societies and the ecosystems that we depend on. And this is also where our predictive ability is the weakest. So I'm not all that afraid of runaway climate changes leading to a hothouse Earth that is uninhabitable for humanity. My worry is that we live in and depend on a global economic system that may be far less resilient than we think it is, and that the system will start to break down as our climatic boundary conditions start to shift. And I worry that this could start to happen before we even see it coming. So many of the urgent social and environmental crises that we're facing today, poverty, food and water insecurity, biodiversity loss, global inequality, forced migration and displaced peoples, political polarization, all of these have the potential to be exacerbated by climate changes. A prolonged period of drought in Syria could have contributed to sparking the past 8 years of civil war and consequent refugee crisis. And so climate change can be a potent stressor on human and environmental systems that are already under considerable strain. And so my fear in all of this is that climate change could at some point be the last straw that makes something snap. And so dealing with global warming is really about minimizing the risk that climate change compound these other pressures and lead to societal instabilities that could have profound implications for everyone on the planet, beginning with those who are the least at fault and have the fewest resources available to protect themselves. What we're doing to the climate system really is unprecedented in the history of the Earth and demands an unprecedented response. And so how will we respond? Will humanity rally around the threat posed by global warming? Will we apply all of our considerable resources and creativity to the challenge of transforming our global economy and eliminating greenhouse gas emissions? And I would say that we haven't done so yet by any stretch of the imagination. As the Arctic continues to melt, sometimes it seems that we are too busy fighting over who will get to extract the new oil that's becoming available to even pause to think about how ironic and indeed idiotic this dispute actually is. So how do we factor human responses into our climate change predictions, and not just our capacity for resilience and ingenuity, but also our capacity for individual and collective stupidity and irrationality? Our choices are what will determine whether climate change becomes a catastrophe, or whether we take this as an opportunity to reinvent and recreate our world as something more sustainable and more resilient. Because this door is still open. It is not too late to choose what sort of future we want to live in. But it will take a whole lot more effort from all of us to get there, and will require political leaders who are willing to find a way through the forces that would have us close our eyes while our house burns down around us. So we need to stop squabbling over what is feasible without compromising economic growth, and we need to start imagining what would be possible if we really tried to solve this problem. And so to everyone here tonight, find a way to help us rise to this challenge so that we never have to find out where humanity's breaking point actually is.